Lions offseason's coming, is here now. We've done a lot of talk about Dan Campbell and what he did this year, but I kind of want to shift the talks to Brad Holmes and what your expectations of him this offseason are. I say he pretty much has an A+ in this last draft. I mean, everybody contributed throughout the season. For you, what are you looking for out of him this offseason, to fill some of these biggest needs for the Lions?
Well, first of all, in Brad Holmes, I trust. We should put that on the new dollar for Detroit. It should be minted on coins. We all should feel very comfortable knowing that man is steering the ship. He gained that trust this entire season with us. Obviously, you had to wait and see how his picks were going to play out, and now we're sitting where we are, and pretty damn good. I know you and Easy had a conversation yesterday about, was this the best draft of the last 20 years? Easy brought up the 2013 draft, which was very strong. After that 2013 draft, the Lions went on a little bit of a run, made it to the playoffs a couple times. So you hope that the same results are going to happen spawning from this draft, and that's all because of Brad Holmes doing his due diligence. And Scott Bischoff, our NFL draft expert, yesterday he came in here, we were talking, just going over what the offseason's going to look like. And since the Lions are coaching the Senior Bowl, Brad Holmes has a history of pulling good players from the Senior Bowl. That's why he got Cooper Kupp. He got put on his radar at the Senior Bowl. Van Jefferson, another guy that's out in L.A. right now that Brad Holmes drafted, was at the Senior Bowl, and that's where he really stood out, and he's become a viable pro. So expect these guys to maybe fall in love with a couple of these guys at the Senior Bowl, and that's good with me because they're up close, they're personal. I don't know if you saw who we're coaching quarterback-wise, but Malik Willis and Sam Howell are the two that are being coached by Dan Campbell. So we're going to get an exclusive look at those guys. So I trust Brad. I think we just hand him assets and stand the hell back and let the man go to work. And obviously next year we'll find out if this year's draft picks pay off.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And another name that's a part of that too is Bailey Zappi from Western Kentucky. And I actually put that graphic up on social media this morning. Sawyer on the screen's got but we have an outstanding culture here, so hopefully that bodes well for us in free agency. That's Lions GM Brad Holmes talking about free agents,
and that's
this
huge.
Offseason. Yeah, 100%.
When has Detroit ever been a free agent destination? When have anybody looked around the league and be like, man, I want to go play in Detroit? Never. But you see the way Dan Campbell coaches, you see the way the players respond, and me and Neil Rule went back and forth on winning that last game, right? But to me, that momentum, it may not carry over into next season, but it definitely carries over into free agency. It definitely carries over into when your players are out hanging with their boys that are already in the league. Yo, man, Detroit was a lot of fun. Did you see all the trick plays we were running? We were loose. Yes, we didn't win a lot of games, but you want to be a part of this. And I don't think we've ever had that here.
Well, and that's kind of something I talked about, with the Red Wings yesterday and bringing Nick Lidstrom in, is having a player running that front office. And now here in Detroit, you got all the coaches who were former players. And if you're a person honestly, who are you going to listen to more? Somebody, that was kind of just a football nerd, or are you going to listen to a guy that actually played the game?
Yeah, see, I go back and forth with that, because, obviously, if you've played the game, you have in-depth knowledge.
Right.
But also, the nerds know stuff, too.
Right, no.
Bill Belichick wasn't an all-star player by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a pretty good coach.
I'd say he's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Dan Campbell and what he did and what he brought this year to the team. And, somebody asked in the chat for us to talk about Megatron rejoining. And I wonder how much of that is the influence of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. If this was still the Matt Patricia era where the locker room's unhappy, people don't want to be there, he's trashing players, calling them names that you shouldn't call anybody, driving good players like Slay and Diggs out of town. You think Megatron would be back in the tunnel like he was this week? I don't think so.
Yeah, and Dave Burkett was actually on the Bottom Line earlier this week, and he put out an article about what this means and said, don't really read too much into it. It's not that big of a deal. It's it's just something business-wise. That's kind of what they were leaving it at. I was like, yeah, and he said there's been times over this year where he's been back 2 or 3 times in the building, but he hasn't put up pictures on the social media like he did. So that's a big difference for me. I was like, okay, there's something more to this.
It was a statement. It was. It really, hey, I'm comfortable with these guys again. And, with all the turmoil we went through pretty much through the season of pay that man his money, billionaires fighting with millionaires over $1 million for people like me, it's annoying as hell. Like, okay, you billionaires can't give this guy $1 million. Like, how's that really going to affect anything in the scheme of anything? It's not going to make Megatron's life any better. It's not going to make the Ford's life any worse. So just solve this issue. It's money. You guys got it. Just solve the issue. But yeah, I love the fact that he decided to come back and, to circle it back to the original topic of Brad Holmes. I think his stamp on this team and his stamp on this franchise is a big part of that reason. And I think Megatron understands that too. Like, he saw who Brad Holmes drafted this year. Mm-hmm. He saw how the team played. He saw the energy on the sideline, and he wants to be a part of it, which speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put it like into words, right? Obviously, we're sitting on the show talking about it, but it's part of that culture. Like, bringing Calvin back, and like one of the, I think, arguably the greatest receiver of all time.
Oh, yeah.
To have him, be involved in this Lions organization, he can help the defensive backs. Like, that's an area of concern that you can help. You got a lot of young guys there. He can teach them better schemes of what they can do on the opposing side to some of these great receivers that we've had to play against, right, like Jamar Chase or Devontae Adams, who's been in this division a long time. So I look at that as like that knowledge for the team. Like, that's going to go so much farther as well.
Yeah, it just can't hurt to have a Hall of Famer on the sideline. It just period, you know. And it can't hurt for fans when they see Megatron walk in. Like, we get to celebrate as a family, like, mm-hmm. And that's me being a Homer fan, but that it's the truth. When he got inducted in the Hall of Fame, you hated that he went in there and he really didn't even say Lions in his speech. Like, that hurts. That's awful. You want him to love this place because of how much love the fans had for him. Obviously, we're not behind the curtain. We don't really see what went down day to day and how they treated him and the money and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, when you think Lions football, you think Megatron.
Yeah, I think the two biggest names, right? Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson.
That's it.
And you want them part of your organization for as long as possible, as long as that may be. And it's for me, it's just, is that, like, that shows you what direction this organization is going in. They let Stafford go. You bring in Calvin back. Like, you're right. You're righting all of your wrongs from history. Obviously, like,
that's a lot of wrongs to right.
It is, but at the end of the day, like, you were eventually going to have to do it. I don't know. You can't just keep operating the way that you were. It's a bad look. You don't want to go. You look what's going on with the Washington football team right now, of just like a piss poor organization. Like, you don't want that here.
That's because Dan Snyder is the biggest idiot ever. Like, Dan Snyder is such a POS. He's getting other coaches fired from emails that they're finding with Dan Snyder on them. Like, that's what happened to John Gruden. That wasn't a witch hunt to get John Gruden.
Right.
They were out to get Washington, and they found stuff on John Gruden and fired him, but Dan Snyder still has a job. Like, when he was accused of sexually harassing his cheerleaders and taking them on flights and forcing them to, like, go with the big clients and big season ticket holders and stuff like that. So what does he do? He doesn't stop his actions. He puts men on the cheerleading team thinking that will solve him from being a sexual predator. It's like, no. Just stop. Yeah. It's like the Papa John's guy. Remember him? He said he had to stop. He had to train himself not to use the N-word.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. You just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's really not hard. You don't abuse women. You don't say the N-word. Like, there's very few rules to being a decent human being. Those are two of the big ones.
That's what my parents instilled at me growing up. It's like there's a difference between right and wrong.
Right.
Like, it's either wrong or it's right. Like, there's no in between there. So they're getting this right, and I'll be interested. Again, they're only saying it's just business right now, but I bet you there'll be some type of press release in the future saying, they did it, they righted it. And I'll be interested, was Brad Holmes, was Campbell, was Holmes, were they kind of pressing on Sheila, to make this happen and get this right?
Yeah, when Dave Burkett was on the other day with us, too, I asked him about Chris Spielman, because Chris Spielman's name, when he first got hired, everybody was talking about Spielman, how he's going to affect the culture and all that. Then he kind of faded to the back. We didn't hear much about Chris Spielman throughout the season, but you got to feel that he had some input on this, too, and that's part of it. And the plan that these guys have in place, and they're sticking to it. That's what Brad Holmes said earlier this week when he was asked about it.
Yeah, I talked with that yesterday with Easy. I was like, bringing in guys that if they're going to perform, it's what they said, like no turds allowed. Like that's what Campbell said in one of his.
It reminds me of Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars used to have the no knuckleheads. That was his thing. We don't want knuckleheads on this team, and I love it. And we've never had a culture for the Lions, right? We've always tried to do it the Patriot way. When we brought in Mooch, we tried to switch to the West Coast offense, so we were trying to do it the 49ers way. Now we're doing it the Detroit way, the Dan Campbell way, because there's only one Dan Campbell, and he's not trying to copy anybody.
No, he's so authentic, and that's what makes the city of Detroit fall in love with him. And what's more authentic than Detroit? Like we just talked about with Motown, being the first of a lot of things. We don't copy things here in Detroit. We invent things.